I come to the floor today to discuss the crisis that's hitting all Americans. It's a crisis caused by the Democrats. It's a crisis of inflation and a crisis of the recession in which we're living. Now, right now, it looks like Democrats want to take a victory lap. I've heard the president give his speeches, and seems to want to do this because the Democrats have passed one of the largest tax and spend bills in the history of the country. And they crammed it through Congress in just a matter of days. It was partisan. It was a liberal wish list. And for some, it seemed like it was a green-haired liberal's dream come true. The bill includes hundreds of billions of dollars for the radical climate agenda that so many of the Democrats have been talking about. They're going to double the size of the Internal Revenue Service. Audits will be up. It's going to raise taxes on the middle class by tens and tens of billions of dollars. Now, Democrats, of course, passed this bill on a party line vote. Not a single Republican voted for it in the House or in the Senate, and Joe Biden signed it into law. Ever since then, the liberals in the press have been singing Joe Biden's praises. And yet here's a recent headline that I saw from NBC News. It said, Democrats reluctant to campaign with Biden. Reluctant to campaign with Biden. And then the headline goes on, despite the recent winning streak. Winning streak? There's nothing winning about this. This is a losing streak hitting the American people. All of this Democrat celebration just shows how out of touch today's Democrat Party really is. Working families aren't celebrating right now. No, they're struggling in this age of inflation, economic crisis. Here's the reality. We're in a recession. Just last week, the government confirmed the economy has now shrunk for 6 months in a row. It's been the definition of a recession for decade upon decade, no matter what the White House wants to say about how they want to redefine recession. Inflation remains at a 40-year high. People can't keep up. They're falling behind. Just this morning, a new Gallup poll came out. And what did it show? Today's Gallup poll showed a majority of Americans saying inflation is causing them, personally, them, financial hardship. That's who's struggling. That's who's hurting most. American families trying to make ends meet. For low-income Americans, according to this poll by Gallup out today, 3 out of 4 are facing financial hardship from the inflation that has been brought on to this country by the Democrats' reckless spending. For the middle class, it's 2/3, 2 out of 3 members of the middle class. So the American people aren't celebrating now. They're having to cut back on their spending because they can't afford to keep up, and they're falling further and further behind. So it's astonishing that Democrats think they're on a winning streak. It's fascinating to watch Joe Biden and Democrats pat themselves on the back because gas prices are now $1.50 more a gallon than they were the day Joe Biden took office. Some places they're less than $4 a gallon, but not in Nevada and Washington State, just to name a few. No celebrating, in my opinion, when gas prices are $1.50 a gallon more today than they were the day Joe Biden took office, and in a day after Saudi Arabia announces that they're going to cut back on production of oil, even though Joe Biden went hat in hand on bended knee and said, please, Saudi Arabia, produce more oil and sell it to the United States. Because even though we have it here, we're not going to let the American people get it out of the ground. Democrats haven't lifted a finger to produce one more drop of American oil or American energy. Supplies down from the pre-pandemic peak. Prices are down right now a little because demand is down, because people can't afford to drive at the high prices that gasoline went up to because of Joe Biden's policies and the Democrats' commitment to keeping the oil in the ground. The American people are driving less in the summer of 2022 than they were in the summer of 2020, and that was the year of the pandemic when the country was in a shutdown. That's what really high prices of energy will do in terms of demand to using oil. Increasingly, people not only can't leave home because of the cost of gas, they can't afford to stay home either, can't afford to heat their home or cool their home. Half of American homes are powered by natural gas, but Biden's position is keep that gas in the ground. Right now, 20 million Americans have fallen behind on paying their electric bills. That's a record. In total, the American people owe more than $16 billion in unpaid electric bills. It's double the amount owed before the pandemic, and 20 million people may be facing what's been described as a tsunami of shutoffs. It's all because of Democrats' out-of-touch policies. At the grocery store, prices are up 13 cents on the dollar in the last 12 months. That means a $100 grocery bill last year would be $113 this year. I was at the grocery store, a woman had 2 bags, and she said, does this look like $100 worth of groceries? Week after week, this adds up. This is the fastest increase in grocery prices in 43 years. We're talking about meat and milk and eggs and vegetables, talking about fruit, things people buy when they go to the grocery store. Higher costs for gas and groceries, steadily eating away the finances of the American people. Total prices have gone up more than 12% since Joe Biden took office. And last week we learned that prices have increased faster than wages. What people have to pay going up faster than what people are earning for 16 months in a row. As a result, the American family today can afford a lot less than they could the day Joe Biden took office. Wages can't keep up, so people are turning to their savings and to debt. 1 out of 3 Americans has taken an average of $600 out of their savings this year just to pay the bills to keep up, just so they don't fall further behind. Household debt has never been higher than it is right now, and it's only going up. Half of American families say they expect to add even more to their debt by the end of the year. So what are Democrats offering working families, people who are out there struggling, trying to get by? Well, the Secretary of Energy has this to offer. She says, hey, a 30% discount on solar panels. Under the new spending bill, the taxpayer will pay for 30% of the cost of those new solar panels. It's taxpayers across the country for people who want to get the 30% discount. People can't afford basic groceries like milk and eggs right now, let alone solar panels. Does Secretary Granholm really think middle-class families are running out to buy solar panels? Not a chance. They're not. The American people are saying to the climate extremists, thanks, but no thanks. Democrats' inflation is not going away anytime soon. The effects are going to be with us for a long, long time, and the American people know it. That's why they think the country is heading in the wrong direction. We may see inflation getting worse. That's because Democrats have now poured jet fuel on the fire of inflation. They did it twice this past month. First, they passed this incredibly expensive spending bill. Then a few days later, Joe Biden announced a very unfair $500 billion taxpayer-funded handout to people with college loans. It's a 1-2 punch to families who work, pay their taxes, and pay their bills, who, when they sign their name to a loan, expect to pay it back. It's not what we're getting with Joe Biden. Nope. What we're getting is actions that are going to cause more inflation. According to the Wharton School of Business and their budget model, Democrats' spending bill is going to increase inflation, not just for a week, not just for a month, not just for a year, but for at least 2 years. And that's something apparently Joe Biden is proud of. Even the Democrat economists admit the student loan giveaway is going to increase inflation. So let's name names. Former Obama economic advisor Jason Furman called this gasoline on the inflationary fire that is already burning. This is Obama's economic advisor called it reckless. Former Obama and Clinton economic advisor Larry Summers said student loan debt relief increases inflation. It will also tend to raise tuition. Raise tuition. Is that what the Democrats are for? Hey, let's raise tuition. We're for that. That's what Larry Summers says is going to happen as a result of these positions by the Democrats in this chamber and in the White House. Joe Biden continues to make life more expensive, more unaffordable, and more painful for American families. To bring down costs, Republicans propose doing the exact opposite of what the Democrats are doing today. We need to produce more and spend less. We need to produce more. Lots of things. Energy is part of it. We need to unleash American energy. We need to lower costs all across the country by producing more American energy right here in the United States, not going hat in hand to Saudi Arabia, not going hat in hand, as Joe Biden did just a year ago, to Russia, to Vladimir Putin's Russia. Just a year ago, Joe Biden was saying, please send us more oil. Oh, and he wants the same from Iran and Venezuela. We have it here in the United States. We need to unleash it. For the last 20 months, Democrats have waged an all-out war against American energy. We need more energy, not less. What we need less of is less Washington red tape. So far, Joe Biden has issued more than $200 billion in punishing regulations in just 20 months. Makes it more expensive to create jobs here at home. Finally, we need to stop this reckless Washington spending. The Biden inflation crisis started the month after Democrats passed their first spending bill. The first spending bill added $2 trillion to the debt. The college loan giveaway, another $500 billion. It's all going to make inflation worse, and people at home are furious. So, despite what the liberal pundits may say, Democrats have nothing to celebrate. A poll from Reuters last week showed Joe Biden still has an approval rating below 40%. 3 out of 4 Americans say this country is on the wrong track under Joe Biden and the Democrats. According to one poll, a full majority of Americans say America's best days are behind us. It's a record high. People think the best days are behind us. America's in a crisis right now, from our economy to our border to crime in our communities. Joe Biden's liberal policies have failed working families across America. So I disagree with those who say our best days are behind us. I believe the best days for America are always ahead of us. It is the control of Washington that needs to be put behind us. You know, Joe Biden gave a political speech the other day, flanked by Marines in Philadelphia. He told the American public it was a policy speech. It was not. He intentionally misled the American people and tried to lie to the American people. Because if it had been a policy speech, he would have actually addressed the issues that are keeping Americans awake at night, the issues that they care about, the pain that they're suffering. He never mentioned once the word prices, inflation, gas, the border, crime, cartel, fentanyl, or debt. Never mentioned those. No, the president closed his eyes to all of those things that he's done that is causing massive pain to the American people, but he looked down the nose, his nose, at tens and tens of millions of Americans who are struggling to get by in the American economy that this president and the Democrats have intentionally undermined. Mr. President, I yield the floor.